Good morning, Dan and Amy, and we've spoken to our next guest a number of times as he has, through his guerrilla journalism, exposed bad actors in politics and the media. You remember during the campaign when he exposed Creamy Bob, the convicted felon husband of Calamity Jan Schakowsky.
Yes, I remember it.
Trying to commit voter fraud in Wisconsin, and of course he's done some undercover stings that are revelatory, and listening to getting the unfiltered opinion from D.C. press corps outlets like CNN and the New York Times. He's James O'Keefe. He's the founder of Project Veritas. He's the author of a new book, Breakthrough, Our Guerrilla War to Expose Fraud and Save Democracy. And he's coming to town. He's going to be in Chicago next week, thanks to our friends at the Heartland Institute, Wednesday, April 18th, so a week from tomorrow, at the Cotillion in Palatine. For more information on James O'Keefe's appearance, sponsored by the Heartland Institute, go to heartland.org. And we're pleased to be joined by James O'Keefe. Now, James, thanks for being with us again. Appreciate it.
Great to be with you guys. Thank you.
So give us a little, we've mentioned some of your exposés, but give us a little run through your book. Is this a compilation of the work that you've done to this point and kind of a way forward?
Well, Breakthrough was the last book I wrote. This book is actually called American Pravda.
Oh, yeah.
American Pravda. And it came out in January, and it's called American Pravda because one of the differences between the Russian news media, the Pravda, and the American media is the people in the United States often don't know they're being lied to. Our news media has become systemically corrupt. They are sort of relaying information to the masses that's not true. And this book, I mean, we all know that to be, some of us know that to be true, but this book talks about what it's going to require to expose the truth and distribute the truth in a world that doesn't necessarily want to hear it. And for economic reasons and legal reasons, these news corporations are engaged in propaganda. And our army of guerrilla journalists expose voter fraud and the Hillary campaign, go undercover inside CNN, and as these producers tell us, the Russia stories are BS. We went undercover inside Twitter in January as these Twitter executives told us how they shadow ban. So it's important to unmask what's happening, but it takes a lot of moral courage to do it. And that's what this book talks about. It's sort of an adventure story as we unmask the truth in modern-day media.
But will it ever stop? I mean, what can you do to stop it?
Well, the price of liberty is eternal vigilance, as it's been said. So every 2 years we have an election, and most people think the way to get involved is to just elect new people. But, you know, the Republicans control both houses of Congress and the presidency, and they're utterly unable to, for the most part, stand up for the things that people voted them, for them for. And that's a result of the media, the toxic media influence on public perception. I think the way to stop it, if you want to use that word, although I don't think you can ever stop it in a day, but I think is to expose the truth. I think I have an infinite faith in the power of people if they're given the raw, visceral truth. If they could see what's happening inside of the IRS and the Justice Department and these sort of deep state agencies, if they could see the social media executives behind closed doors, I think that, forget the congressional hearings about Zuckerberg today, I think people would sort of rebel. They would all sort of come together about these things. So that the real mission is not to elect the right people to office, since, in my opinion, they're powerless in D.C. anyway. The real mission is to visually expose things in such a way that it unites the country. That's what the mission of Project Veritas is, and that's what this book, American Pravda, talks about.
Without giving away the secret sauce, as it were, I wonder how you go about recruiting, identifying journalists for the undercover work that you guys do, because in many of these case studies that you've mentioned, they do a great job of gaining the trust of the individuals that they're trying to extract information from, and really helping to build a story, provide that transparency that you're describing. And that's no easy feat. And so I just kind of wonder how you do talent recruitment and development.
Well, it has become a more complicated process to recruit undercover journalists because they're going to try to turn the tables on me. It's kind of funny. Media institutions have done more investigative reporting into me than they have into into government organizations in D.C. I guess they view me as a threat to their whole credo, and as they should. But people used to do this decades ago. To answer your question, we have a very unique model, and we have to recruit these people. I don't use volunteers anymore. Everyone's full-time and gets a salary, because volunteers, they come and go, and when a subject wants to have a meeting, you have to have the meeting. We had 1,000 applications last year. We went on like the Sean Hannity show and other shows like this one, and said, hey, come hither, come to New York State where our office is located, and we'll train you and equip you. And we just filter them. We interview them. We do background checks. We do a variety of things where it makes it very difficult for them to lie. And there's a layer of interviews until they finally meet me. And we actually have a very strong team. We're very focused. We don't comment on the news every day. We don't respond to news. We pick subjects of investigation, like Antifa was one of the ones that we did. We're still working on education reform. We pick these broad themes, government agencies, and we just focus on it for a year. And that's what we do.
It's interesting because it's like what investigative units, real investigative journalists used to do. Some still do, but very few. And I think, too, is the same thing with David DeLayden and the undercover work that Center for Medical Progress did. They spent the better part of 2 years training, becoming extremely knowledgeable, granularly knowledgeable about their subject, and that kind of work into the story that you are pursuing and the reporting that you're going to do, being knowledgeable, bringing a base of knowledge to the table. Geez, what a value add that is, and it's so rare these days.
Yeah, you have to, as Dale Carnegie says, win friends and influence people is the main thesis behind undercover work. It's building a cover, building an alias, becoming knowledgeable, and frankly, David DeLayden, he knew so much about fetal tissue. He was an expert in it. And one of the things that I've learned as an undercover reporter is don't be from New Hampshire if you don't know anything from New Hampshire. You have to know the subject matter. So it's a really interesting science and art form. It's necessary to unmask things. There's no virtue in passing along untrue information to the masses, which is what the mainstream media does every day for perverse economic incentive reasons. So Project Veritas exists to bring hope to the people, to expose the truth, and we're building an army of guerrilla journalists. But the legal issues we face and the challenges from the media, they're always investigating us and trying to arrest me. So it's really a fight for our survival as much as it is a fight for the truth, and that's part of this book American Pravda talks about as well.
Well, do you ever fear for your safety or safety of your staff members? I mean, because you are kind of acting, you're role-playing. And are you afraid that you might get caught while you're in the process?
Yeah, it's always a risk, being burned, being compromised. We are burned. It's a mathematical certainty people will get burned. We were burned on a Washington Post investigation, burned on an Antifa investigation, burned inside the woman who did the Hillary Clinton investigation, Bob Creamer, who's married to Jan Schakowsky there in Chicago. She was burned in Iowa Hillary office, and she just dyed her hair, went back in, said she was the niece of a wealthy donor, and she got access to Bob Creamer's office. Bob did not make her sign a non-disclosure agreement. And there was no laws being broken. He went off about how it's Hillary Clinton's idea to put ducks on the ground. That was a metaphor for inciting violence at Trump rallies. There was Scott Fogle, which is Bob Creamer's deputy. He talked about hiring mentally ill people to go do things and have buses from Chicago to Wisconsin. This young woman was compromised in I think it was the summertime. She dyed her hair and went back in. So we don't fear the violence from our opposition. What we fear is the legal retaliation. I have 15 lawsuits right now, 15. I have the New York Attorney General and the California Attorney General trying to audit me and shut me down and take away my nonprofit status. The way this country works is they use the law. They use the government as a weapon to intimidate and silence people so that they say, it's just not worth it for me to do this anymore. Do I fear that? Yes. How am I compensating for it? I just keep on going.
Michael Cohen not available at this moment, James, but good luck with the litigation. Donald Trump has labeled the mainstream media fake news during the 2016 election, and journalist James O'Keefe, who we're speaking with, created Project Veritas to expose falsehoods going where traditional journalists won't dare. Again, April 18th, Heartland Institute for dinner to meet James O'Keefe, learn about American Pravda, his new book, and raison d'etre, in his efforts to expose the corruption of our so-called mainstream media. Registration starts at $30 online at heartland.org, but we're giving away a pair of tickets right now to hear James O'Keefe at the Heartland Institute next Wednesday, April 18th at the Cotillion in Palatine. To caller number, what, Amy?
4.
Caller number 4, 312-773-6993, 312-773-6993. Caller number 4 gets 2 tickets to hear James O'Keefe. James, thanks again for joining us. We appreciate it. Good luck with the book, and we'll see you in Chicago next week.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.